Hey, this is Chad, and I had a subscriber send in a DEXA scan for analysis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a little bit of background on the subscriber, check out their DEXA scan, and then I'm going to finish with some recommendations. So let's get right into it. So for background for this subscriber, this person is male in the 20 to 29 age range and is 5'11" on their intake form. And on the DEXA table, they measured at 183.8 pounds. This makes for a BMI of 25.6, which is just barely in the overweight category by BMI. The subscriber said they do pickleball a few times per week as their only exercise, and their main goal is weight management, not so much body composition. So let's jump into the DEXA results. So the DEXA measured their body fat percentage at 26.9%, which is on the 80th percentile for Bodyspec clients. It's important to note that the percentiles are based on people who are getting DEXA scans, not the overall population. The percentiles here skew a little bit more towards lean compared to the general population. Anyways, there's a little bit of room for improvement there. So let's look into fat distribution. I'd say the fat distribution for this person is minorly advantageous for aesthetics. It's a pretty standard distribution for men with a slight skew more towards fat in the trunk and gynoid as opposed to the android. Essentially, this means this person stores more fat currently in their butt and upper chest torso areas as opposed to their belly, which will make you look more flat and even rather than a beer belly sort of look. For example, you don't really see pronounced love handles on the scan. Just going down to the next page, we'll take a look at the resting metabolic rate. So this is about what you'd expect based, calculated on their lean mass. The RMR isn't particularly strong, but it's fine and it shouldn't really pose any issue for weight loss. Now the visceral fat. So switching to this chart of visceral fat for Bodyspec clients, we see that this person had a fat mass of 1.42 pounds for their visceral fat, which is 80th to 81st percentile. So to me, this is the biggest area of improvement. VAT is closely associated with metabolic syndrome, heart disease, cardiac arrhythmia, vascular diseases, and stroke. So in general, you want this to be as low as possible, as close to zero as possible. Bone report, age to match bone density Z-score of 0.2 puts this person at the 50th to 70th percentile range. There's not a whole lot to worry about here. It could be improved by resistance training, as we know, but you're not really going to run into problems at this level of bone density. So running into the recommendations now. So let's start with exercise and exercise modalities. In general, more exercise is always better up until around 20 hours per week. Exercise is shown to help manage weight and reduce energy surpluses in free living studies. Obviously, resistance training is best for body composition, but for strictly weight management, missed cardio is optimal, so essentially steady state, moderate intensity, zone 2. If you like HIIT cardio, that's okay. It won't be interfering with your weight training since you're not weight training, but 30 minutes a day, probably a good target. Let's go into calories and food types. So if we bring up the calorie calculator for this person's stats, the weight, height, age, activity, I put it as moderate because light exercise 1 to 3 times a week. It's more like intense exercise twice a week, I'd probably say. So for moderate, it gives you 2,700. I think that's probably relatively accurate, maybe a little bit high. For weight loss, I'd recommend starting at 2,200 calories per day on your current routine of exercise. If you add in 30 minutes of moderate cardio per day on the non-pickleball days, you could bump it up to 2,400. It should still be fine. That would probably help a little bit with hunger if you're having an issue with that. This might seem to be a little conservative, but consider that it's not a race. You don't need to cut quickly so that you can go on a bulk later. The focus should be on sustainability so that you can stick to the diet without suffering until you've reached your goal. As for foods to eat, try to eat mainly high quality whole foods such as lean meat and eggs, whole grains, low fat dairy sources such as Greek yogurt and skim milk, plenty of whole fruits and vegetables. Avoid unnecessary dietary fats such as butter and oils. If you don't have non-stick pans for cooking oil, get one of those aerosol sprays and spray for like half a second at most, just enough to get a thin layer on the pan and no more. Definitely avoid unnecessary added sugars like sugary drinks, sodas, fruit juices. Substitute in sugar-free syrups and sauces such as the yellow mustard, sugar-free barbecue sauce, etc. Processed foods are fine if they're still high volume, low calorie dense food. The main problem with processed food is a lot of times it's not voluminous and high calorie, like, essentially candy bars. You eat a little bit of it, it gets you a lot of calories and it doesn't really fill you up all that much. It's not good for weight loss. Have as much diet or low-calorie beverages as you want, such as coffee, diet soda, tea, etc. Caffeine is your friend for sure for weight loss, as long as it isn't hurting your sleep quality. So probably avoid having caffeine after around 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon.
One more thing I wanted to add is that sleep is important. Make sure you're getting your 8 hours per night. They've done studies on this. People who are trying to lose weight and are getting not enough sleep, like very poor levels of sleep, like 3-4 hours a night. Essentially, they lost 100% of their weight in muscle and they didn't actually lose any fat. So sleep is extremely, extremely important, especially when you're focusing on weight loss. So make sure to get that in.
Also, it's okay to have treat items here and there. Just remember the dosage makes the poison, so moderation is key. You can have a small treat daily and still make progress if it doesn't lower your adherence. This really depends on the person. For some people, if they have, what is typically known as a treat food, like a donut or something, even if theoretically you'd be able to fit it within your intake, for some people specifically, it kind of spirals them into getting a taste for it and really wanting a lot more and essentially leading to binges. So if that's happening, you kind of just have to cut it out. It's the only solution. Also, this is really important. Focus on having some protein with every meal and try to get 125 grams per day of high quality dietary protein. 125 grams, which is essentially the amount of lean mass that you have, just to make sure that you're maintaining your muscle mass throughout the entire cut. You really don't want to be losing muscle. And focus on high-quality dietary protein. High-quality protein sources include lean meats, such as eggs, chicken, turkey breast, lean ground beef or bison, white fish, low-fat dairy products, or dairy derivatives, such as whey protein or casein protein powder supplements. Now, to track your progress, it's important generally to track your progress. So what I would do is take your weight every day in the morning under similar conditions, and then track your median weight week by week. You can modulate your daily calories if you aren't seeing progress at the correct rate, but remember the focus should be on adherence, since it's not like you have to cut really quickly so that you can go on a bulk soon to gain muscle, right? Because you're not really resistance training. What matters is that you make the progress and that you can adhere to it, and you don't rebound. So it's not so important to get there quickly. It's important that you get there without suffering, essentially. You're here for the long haul. So that's pretty much all I had in terms of recommendations. I'd love to hear any feedback, and I think a follow-up in the future, 2, 4, 8 months from now, with another DEXA scan and some commentary on what you did, I think would be a great educational opportunity for anybody who's watching. Thank you very much to the subscriber who sent this in, and I wish you the best in your journey. Thank you to everyone who's watching, and bye. Have a good one.